Okay, practical applications of E equals M over C squared, part 2. This is much more interesting. Consciousness exists and we receive it. It's brilliant, isn't it? E equals M over C squared proves that consciousness exists and we receive it. And that I need to say nothing more than that. You just need to look at the information sufficiently that you go, okay, that might be true, and then go away and test it. And welcome to the future. And if you need to ask any questions, or you want any more information, or you want to look at and do your own sketches to work up your own little reality model so you understand it, this is the idea, then the future begins. So the practical application of the new understanding of energy is that Star Trek world has begun, and we can give the meaning of life and the meaning of suffering, and we can answer that question. Why does God allow the suffering of little children? Because the suffering of little children is our choice. It exists in the wave function of probability. So you have to have all options available to you. The dice man, when he was deciding what directions to go, was giving himself 6 options already doubled up, didn't he, to 12, and he invented all these games for these different options. Because when you're playing the dice game, you just want more options, and that the game becomes exciting when there are some really serious risk options on there. There was I must look up his name in my Dead Pop Stars book, who played Russian roulette just to show off to his girlfriend and blew his brains out with one bullet in the gun. So you've got to have that element of risk to make it a thing. In another future, he walked on. The gun went click, he put it down and he walked on and had a great night. And that's what the probability that we see in that wave function represents, all options. And what happens in the double slit experiment when we make that measurement? When we observe and we look at particular elements of the experiment, we are choosing which part of the experiment to look at. And you're looking in time, you're looking inside the time particle when you're looking at the double slit experiment, or whichever way you do with refracting of light. You can do it with the double slit is so confusing. But look on YouTube, there's brilliant ones with a single hair. You can drop a hair into a light. And then there was some videos of this girl's been, a physicist, a young girl has been put in smoke to try to really see the waves, so that you can really understand what you're looking at in a much more clear way. So there's our practical application, okay? That we can give meaning to our life to that. We choose the suffering. We can choose that disease stops. This is the truth. You could do an experiment right now, and if every single person engaged in this experiment, Billy Connolly would be cured. Billy Connolly's pain that he's currently carrying so valiantly as a real fucking hero of mine. So I identify him as the one person, recognizing that this suffering he's representative to me of all the people that I've met who've suffered from that hideous fucking disease of Parkinson's. Because it's a receptor problem. So we can choose to behave excellently. That the love rules that I'm always talking about is so beautiful, because you already know all these answers. You just tell yourself the stories that you want to hear, from the stories you know. And this one is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, because those two are the love rules. That's it. But you have to understand the first one before you can do the second. The first one is the oxygen mask. So when you're on the plane, the instructions are, when the oxygen mask comes down, put your own on first before helping others. So there are 2 steps. You help yourself, you help others. So the instructions are always clear, and that's obvious, isn't it? But it's worth pointing out. So you just choose to be excellent to everything that you possess, that you use, that you interact with, that becomes part of your experience. You choose to be excellent towards it. And you can define that excellence in your own heart, but it must have love and morality at its base. And providing you're checking and choosing all the time against that base that you've set yourself on, that solid foundation, you behave excellently. Now, if every single person on the planet behaved excellently right now, Billy Connolly would be cured. That's my hypothesis. How do I test it? I'm doing that experiment. I invite you to join me. It will be a lovely way of proving that this is right, because you can imagine that there was a prophecy about a rapture happening on a planet of people who suddenly worked out who they were. Imagine if that story actually existed. That would be incredible, wouldn't it? Because then this would be the moment when that rapture happened. Unbelievable. Such a thing could never happen. Not in our lifetimes, eh? Love rules. Do the work. Choose to be excellent.